All right, so welcome everybody to the August 9th koha-US System Admin Special Interest Group. As I was admitting to people before the recording started, I didn't do much preparation for this because I've had a users group and I visited the conference venue and I had an upgrade last night. So there's a very brief agenda in the chat. The two bugs on there are from Rebecca, so hopefully she'll show up here a little later. But we will just kind of do our usual sort of freeform thing where we will see if there's any reports that anybody has been working on, anything cool you want to share. Interesting you've been doing with SEKLS.
Well, I don't have a new report, but I learned that you can, probably other people know this, but I learned that you can put comments in your report, just like you would with CSS, and it still runs. And that was helpful to me in a certain case. I looked it up and it's like, yes, you can do this. So that was nice.
Yeah, I find that helpful when you like are testing things and you don't want to delete it out totally, but you can comment and then uncomment back and forth.
I always forget, what do you use to comment it out? Is it just two backslashes?
I used the slash and an asterisk and then reversed on the other side.
Cool. Thank you.
I should be taking notes. This is why I don't need to be the sysadmin sig chair. All right. Anybody else? Any cool reports you've been working on? I was gonna pull up mine and see if there was anything in the recently added reports that I've done that I've forgotten. Oh, yeah, my most recently added report is a list of self-registered patrons because someone deleted my self-registered patron report that I have linked up on the front page. So not exactly new. I did write a report to generate a PDF of our kits. I guess I can share that one. Let me screen. So I have this one called Use Services Kits List. Because my youth services consultant wanted to be able to, our website's been up and down. So she wanted to be able to have a separate PDF she could have stored in a drive somewhere that she could share with people. Of course, there's different uses for this. It's very slow, so we'll get there. Anything else exciting here? Local circulation by shelf location and a date range. Not exactly exciting. I've been working on reports for logs because people want to access the logs, but I don't want them to access the logs because I'm afraid that they'll crash things. So, all right, so this report came up. So basically just an image of the kit. Then I did a little formatting here with headers and yeah, some HTML formatting in the title and then the call number. And then she could just highlight this and print it as a PDF, and then the hyperlinks are still maintained. So that was something sort of interesting I did. The SQL is here, and like the title field is just concatenating an H2 and then concatenating the description field underneath. So it gives it sort of a different, a summarized feel, kind of. So that's my most interesting report. I see George has joined us. Have you done anything fun with SQL lately, George?
Maybe, I don't know.
All right. Just making notes here so I can add it to the notes later.
So that was George, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we will move on to our next topic then, which is bugs. Let's see what these bugs are that she sent me. Bug 27841 is add unique action types to action logs for holds. And it looks like Andrew wrote this bug. So what do you know about it, Andrew?
Oh, that's a really good question. Not much. That sounds nice.
So
What was that number again?
Oh, sorry, you came late. I'll put the bug in the chat.
Yeah, if there's an agenda, if you could throw that back in
Okay.
there too.
So the agenda is just those two bugs.
Oh, okay, got it.
So it sounds like right now in the action logs, when you do something to a hold, like when it goes to transit or it goes to waiting, we just put modification. And so the idea I had a year ago and then forgot was that if we could put like, if the action was this hold went to transit or this hold went to waiting, that would make writing a report to find all of the spots in the action logs where a hold went to transit or went to waiting or did a specific action actually a lot more writable than what we've got now. Because right now we just see something changed.
Yep, and it looks like Rebecca commented on this. So I think that's a great idea. So I should copy myself on this bug. Anybody else feels the same? Do the same?
I've already done it. I just made a comment on it.
All right, and now the other bug that she shared with us is 25847, which is set the item to cart location when recording local use with the statistical patron. Again, Andrew wrote this one too.
I have a lot of
So
bugs.
2 years old. So yeah, we don't use this feature, but it sounds like it would be nice for like local use recordings.
Yeah, it seems like it would need to be optional. Because like I can think of the library where the fact that this got a local use doesn't necessarily mean it's gone into like the whole reshelving process.
Right, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
There's another. I do use the cart feature, and I've already commented on that bug. There's another one that I can't think of. There's an issue with the cart feature where sometimes when you check an item out and the location is cart, cart gets recorded in the statistics table as the shelving location, and sometimes it doesn't. And so that's what I have a bug out there somewhere that says, could we make sure that the permanent location is always recorded in the statistics table? And I'll try and look for that and find the number, but it's an enhancement that would be really useful in the statistics table, because right now if something does fall through those cracks and gets recorded as being checked out while it's at cart, then you have to rewrite your reports to go back and find the data from the items table, or from, in some cases, the deleted items table, in order to get accurate data about where those are circling. So, you know, if I find the bug for that, I'll pop it in the chat.
Awesome.
Are any of you using pseudonymization? I wonder if well, first, I wonder if the pseudonymized actions table is recording those shelving locations in the same way statistics is, or if it's getting it right when statistics is getting it wrong. I said first, and there really wasn't a second.
I think when I asked about that specific problem, the issue is that some things don't always happen in the same order when you check an item in. And so sometimes when you check the item out, the things also don't happen in the right order. And so sometimes when you do the checkout, it changes that location before it records the use. And sometimes it doesn't, because it's not consistent how things happen. I'd like to use the fake name. I can't ever say that word. I would like to use that, but I haven't investigated it enough yet to turn it all on. So busy doing other things.
I told our koha to start recording the pseudonymized actions when I started, and we are going to ask Bywater to then start deleting the statistics table at 180 days. Once we've got 180 days of pseudonymized data in place.
Yeah, we're kind of bad about data retention. We do a lot of it, so this isn't being recorded, right?
Well, it
it's
is
something
one of those where, like, even after we've deleted that statistics table, the government can still find out who checked out a book if they want. So are we just complicating our own lives for not much protection?
Yeah, have you ever watched Criminal Minds? I mean, they can find out your phone number that you had in 1960 with like 5 taps of a keyboard.
Yeah, they just pull up koha and they keep saying enhance until the data they want is on the screen.
Yeah, that's something that we're working on now. We're reviewing our policies, and one of them is going to be patron privacy and confidentiality. So we're moving towards that, but at this point, there's a lot of work to be done. Well, we've made it through the bulk of our agenda. Next, okay, George put in that bug.
Yeah, that's the bug for statistics table should have some way to include items permanent location.
Okay, get that in the notes. Are there other bugs that people want to talk about?
I'm not sure if there's an active bug, but we've been discussing amongst our team quite a bit about how confusing, because this happens a lot with our libraries. They get very confused by how lost works, where things get checked in. And that really, throws patrons and staff for a loop. So, I mean, it would be quite a radical change, but we're just trying to wrap our heads around how we could make that so like an item didn't actually get checked in, where it would just have like a lost status, something like that. Maybe that would work a little bit better than sort of checking something in and moving it over to that lost table. So just wanted some feedback on that.
I think it would be nice if you could say that when something, you can tell it when something gets marked as lost, you can say what status it's going to be marked as, which one of the lost statuses it's going to be. I think ours is number 2. It'd be nice if you could say when something gets set to lost status number 2, it can't be checked in, or, to have some flexibility there to say that this is what happens to different statuses, because we appreciate, I've done several libraries. Missing is one of the lost statuses we have. Mm-hmm. And so when you can't find something else something on the shelf you mark it as missing, then when it gets checked in, it's not missing anymore. And that's super convenient. Right. So it would be nice if there was a way we could say, what happens when something is lost status number 2, what happens when something is lost status number 3. I think I have like 8 lost statuses for various reasons. And it'd be nice if they were flexible about what happens when you mark them that way.
So you mean sort of the same choice that you make in that system preference, mark lost item as returned?
Yeah, it'd be nice if that could be controlled at a status by status level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. I think what I'm getting at is particularly the confusion of when something hits that long overdue status where it triggers and becomes lost. That item does get checked in off their account technically. Now there's still in the account settings, you see a fee, and so there's a record of it, but but because it's checked in, it just creates a level of confusion. So I guess I haven't fully wrapped my head around what would be the best way to do it, but I feel like there's a way where it doesn't get checked in, but still retains that lost status. Just so you could see, like if you ran a report of checked out items, you could still see that item there, you know, for example.
And that is doable. That's the mark lost items as return system preference. You could say, don't mark lost items as returned from the long overdue cron. But
Is that all there is?
yes, but I mean,
Well, no, we do want it to mark loss. We just don't want it to get checked in, I guess, or mark return is what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's the system preference asks when I mark something as lost from via this method, should it also get returned? And so it asks like on the item edit screen, via the items tab, via the long overdue cron. And you, for each one of those, you can say yes or no, do or do not mark things as returned when they become lost. But, and I don't know how much this is going to wreck everything for you. That's a global behavior.
Actually, that wouldn't be a big deal. So the only consequence is it would not be returned when it's marked lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how we're set up.
Okay.
And I will say that it creates a lot more clutter and work for your libraries, because now they're dealing with all these long overdues that are still hanging out on people's accounts.
Yeah, we have it set so that when something is automatically marked lost, it does get checked in, because we have another cron running that deletes those items that have had a lost status after a certain length of time. And if they're lost and still checked out, they can't be deleted automatically. So we want to get them off people's cards so that after the time lapses, they're just automatically deleted. And it does create problems, because we do have people that go, well, how come I'm being billed for it? It says it's checked in. And then staff just say, you know, well, it's because you never returned it. We marked it lost. Now you're being billed for it. Return it. And we can do that. And the other issue we have is that, so we have it so that you keep something overdue more than system-wide, you keep it overdue more than 45 days, it's going to get marked lost on day 46. And then 13 months later, it's automatically deleted. Anything with any lost status that's had the lost status more than 13 months is automatically deleted. And so then the other thing that we have happen is somebody checks it out today, 46 days later, they're billed for it, and then 13 months later it's deleted, and then they return it. And then that creates the hassle with staff where they have to go in and they go, well, you know, now I've got an item that when we check it in, it says no barcode found. And so then they don't know what to do next, because that's confusing too. And invariably they will return these things not at the library where they checked it out, and never at the library that actually owns the item. It'll be on the other end of the consortium. So ultimately, I think what you end up doing is lost items are just a pain no matter what, and you end up trading one set of problems for another. The thing that we like about this is, before we started doing this, we had like 20% of the catalog, 20% of the items in our catalog were marked as lost or missing, because the libraries, particularly the smaller libraries, never took the time to go through the steps to get those items out of the catalog. And so we had this big bloat in the catalog of all these things that were never coming back. And they're just hanging out there because the smaller libraries never have the time to do any maintenance on their catalog like that. So that's kind of the way I feel about it, is we traded that problem for a different problem when we switched to this method. So
What was that system preference again, Andrew?
I just messaged you an old blog about it. But
Oh.
Mark lost items as returned.
Okay, great. That was great. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, and if your long overdue behavior is set in the cron line rather than in the koha system preferences, then then this part of it, I think, also needs to get set in the cron line,
Okay.
because long overdue is like that.
I see, Rebecca, you joined us. We talked about your bugs. Do you want to say anything about those?
No, just please vote on them or comment or get some attraction to it because they're just annoying. And they've been open for a long time. Especially the cart one. That is one that we constantly run into. We've had, I think last year it was like 110,000 in-house use items. So those are all staff complaining. So it would be great if we could just figure out a way to, it seems like it's a simple thing, but I don't know. So that's good to see everybody. Sorry, I'm late.
No worries. So as far as the agenda goes, it was those two bugs. So we're just, any other bugs people want to talk about? Things we want to discuss? On the topic of statuses, I know that there was discussion, I guess several years back now, about trying to come up with a way to make that more controllable and customizable, where you're like defining a status and then defining what it does instead of being constrained by the categories which they live in. I don't know whatever happened to that conversation, but I know we had it.
We used your office to pull.
There may be a bug on it, but I'm not sure. I couldn't find it just Googling around real quick. But I think that would be a great improvement, because like not for loan statuses do something, and then not for loan, if it's a negative, does something else, and then loss statuses do one thing, withdrawn do something else. So more clarity and like actually being able to manage what those things do would be nice.
I had a question for the group. Does anyone use a display status? This came up in several of our in-house meetings, and they want to determine some sort of display status.
I think we have one of our libraries that does that.
We use a shelf location in conjunction with the course reserves module, which has been heavily modified to handle displays instead of course reserves, which is going to be my presentation at KohaCon. So everybody watch and attend KohaCon, and you can see what I'm doing there. But yeah, basically it's just a shelf location that we temporarily apply with the course reserves module. It's pretty slick. But
if you want to do like a lighter weight version of a similar idea, you can set up a display shelving location and then use the update item location on check-in system preference to make that shelving location of display go back to its permanent location at check-in. It's really like using the same mechanism as the shelving cart. It requires you to make the permanent shelving location an editable mark field. So then you can edit an item to make the current shelving location display and leave the temporary, or try the permanent location alone, leave it as, fiction. So that when that thing gets checked back in, it goes from display back to fiction. As far as I know, there is currently a bug around that editing process. Right now, if you make permanent shelving location an editable field, the Koha wants to change it to match whatever you're setting the regular shelving location to, even though you're trying to only edit one field. So you end up having to edit that item twice. That said, Bywater should be patching that because it's a thing that's broken several times and has slapped various libraries in the face every time it's broken. So hopefully it's like kind of top of mind for them.
Thank you for that.
Sure. Somewhere I might have a 15-page like Tango workflow that tells how to set that all up. I could look around.
Yeah, I don't know if they want staff editing shelving locations. We were talking about maybe like using a loss status. So it says display, and then when they check it out, it goes to whatever it is. And then when they check back in, it just goes back to the shelf. But the question is, how do you track how would you track the stats on something like that? That was the other question, is they want to see how many things are being checked out from the displays, if their displays are actually working. And other than a shelving location, I really couldn't think of an option.
Shelving location is how several of our libraries do it. So
Yeah, but then you're going to run smack into the bug that George linked, where sometimes it records the wrong shelving location.
yeah, she wasn't here for that part.
That's the.
That's okay, I'll go back and watch it.
27663.
Other questions, discussion? Well, I guess we're still on bugs on the agenda. Any other bugs? Anybody wants to bring up?
I put one in the chat.
Okay.
This is to cancel a pending notice in Koha. Something that we've asked about several times is we've had problems where things get trapped for a hold, automatically generates that notice, and then we realize the item is broken or covered or whatever. For whatever reason, that item can't fill the hold, and now we take it out and get them another copy, but then they're getting that message. So we want some way to say, don't send this message, like just, it's pending, just cancel it. So that's been a request that we've had.
And you do one big flurry of messages every morning, right? So yeah, you'd have more of a like window to actually hit that cancel button.
Yeah, we do all of our messages at 8 in the morning for MessageBee now. So yeah, we would have a little more time. I know most cron jobs are what, 15 minutes or something.
But even then, I can imagine be like, oh dang, I really don't want this email to go out. I'm gonna race the cron job to go click the cancel button.
Yeah, we've been doing this workaround for claims returned and lost items where we actually return the item and then check it back out to them and then place the claims return. But the problem is that generates a new checkout receipt. And we don't want to tell them that we checked it back out. We just want it to go through. So sometimes I delete the email and then put it back the next day, just make myself a note. But it would be nice if we could just say, don't generate that message and track it, of course, you know, so if some kind of log if we needed to see who was canceling all the messages.
I think it's a great idea, and it's, for some reason or another, I got bumped out of Bugzilla and I can't log back in right now for some reason or another, but I'll comment on it as soon as I can.
Thank you.
The one that I brought up a little while ago at a different meeting, and I'm not going to be able to find it here now because I'm bumped out of Bugzilla for some reason or another, is the in order to search for patrons in the new version in 2111, you need to have modify patron permission. And I can't find the bug for it. But this is a byproduct of, here we go. No, that's not it. In Koha, there's always been two separate ways to search for a patron. You can search in checkout or you can search in patrons. And there were two different searches. And somebody said, why do we have two different searches? Let's just make it one search, which isn't a bad idea. But the thing is that if you have a staff member, like I have a bunch of staff members that don't have the, I think the name of the permission is modify patrons or edit borrowers. If you don't have edit borrowers, you can't access the patron search. You can only do the checkout search. And so now with this next upcoming upgrade in Koha that we have in a couple of weeks, it means that I have a whole bunch of people that aren't going to be able to search for patrons. They will have to have their card. They'll have to have their card number in order to do a checkout search.
Do we have a volunteer?
I think that bug that I put in is the one that George is talking about, 30230.
I would rather
Yeah.
do contraction, if that's personal for them. That's something that takes.
You know, and it's another Andrew bug. Yeah, this bug 15812 made searching for patrons use the regular patron search, but if you have circulate but not edit borrowers, then you can't do a patron search anymore. So that's a problem. So if a lot of people comment on that, that'd be really useful.
So we have another library in town that is also on Koha, and we have very limited access to their Koha to occasionally check things out to their patrons. So on their system, I have view borrowers, but not edit borrowers. And yeah, I could, if I type in a last name, if that gets me to just one patron, it will take me there. But if it tries to take me to a search results page, I get a permissions error, which is extra super confusing.
Yeah, it just bumps you out and it says you don't have permission to do this. It doesn't say it's not a very helpful error message. It's just that you're just back at the login page. So
All right. Any other bugs you want to draw attention to?
I got one more.
Cool.
So this is something I noticed when we were doing pushing for expiration dates for COVID. And I wanted to create a way that all the expiration dates weren't on the same day, if that makes sense. So I'm asking to add a number of days to the expiration date. So you could say like 60 days, and then everyone would just move out to their 60 days past their expiration date, which would sort of make it a little more workflow friendly, because we had some that had like 1,000 or 2,000 expiring on the same day, which I had to move out manually. It took me 2 days to move out all of our patrons by hand. So if we could just add, some sort of like, I think it exists already in, let me read my ticket. It's been a while since I've done this. With the batch extend due dates function, it already exists that you could add 3 extra days to your due date or whatever. So seeing something like that on the patron expiration date push would be really nice. I have a lot of like just sitting there bugs. So thanks for everybody for commenting.
I guess I have one I can plug to. This is dealing with inventory. So at this point, when I do inventory, I can only upload about 1,000 barcodes at a time. Otherwise, it hits a proxy error. So this is some improvements to making that work better. It sort of invalidates the inventory rule at this point, or tool, because you can't do those comparisons. You can't. If you're only doing 1,000 at a time, then it's saying the other 10,000 barcodes are missing. So you lose some of the value of using the inventory tool. So thought I'd link that bug out there as well. If there aren't any other bugs, we can move on to the issues portion of our agenda. Does anybody have any outstanding issues, things you want to talk through, workflows? Major problems, minor problems. You want to talk about your coworkers right now and while they're not in the room? No? Okay. Barbara, go ahead.
I'll point out that if you use the advanced cataloging editor, and this probably occurs in other places too, but and I'd have to look it up, there's some new behavior, I guess, that clears out cookies. So we always use the advanced cataloging editor, and we have that's the system preference set to enable. And previous to the upgrade, every time I would go into cataloging, it would take me to the advanced cataloging editor. But now there's some kind of clearing of cookies or something. So now every time I go into the advanced cataloging editor, I get the basic editor, even though I have the system preference enabled. And then I have to, click on the settings and change to the advanced, and then it'll stay that way throughout my session. But once I log out of Koha and log back in and go into cataloging, it takes me to basic. So I'd have to look up the bug, but I worked with Lucas and he did create some jQuery to make it so that it would stick on the advanced. But for that particular, I assume there was a reason that that behavior was created for other things. But in that instance, to me, if I have a system preference enabled to do something, then I expect it to do it all the time and not take me somewhere that I really don't want to be. I'll see if I can find the bug.
I think it's the one I just put in there, 31.
Okay, cool.
50.
So have you guys heard about or ran into the bug where it's you export one label to PDF and it blows up the label export tool?
I think I read that bug, but don't remember the details of it.
Yeah. Lucas eventually gave us a fix for it, but it's when you try and create a label in the batch and you select only one label and you export it and then you try and download it as a PDF, you get a 500 error. And it's been fixed for 2211, but it's something our catalogers ran into and brought to my attention, and brought it to Bywater, and Bywater fixed it. So if you notice it, there's a fix for it, just talk to them. Actually, let's see if I can put it in the chat.
I think we had that issue, and related to it completely, we had something else that was also contributing where our label creators were completely not working whatsoever. So, but they applied a fix last night and it seems to be working this morning. So.
Another issue that we ran into is we were adding some donated copies of popular titles. So I would normally go into the item, click on it to duplicate the item, bring forward some of the stuff, quickly add my barcode, I'm done. So I realized that I'd done a couple of them and I all of a sudden looked and thought, how can the item that I just created have 47 checkouts and 77 renewals? That's how does that work? And it was the same number from the base record I was using to duplicate from. So apparently it is a bug. And let's see. I've got a ticket on. I'm not sure if we yeah, I think it's 31179. And there's supposed to be a patch coming, but that was really surprising to me. So I stopped using that because I don't really want to see that something I just added has all those checkouts.
It sounds like a great way to increase your circulation statistics. Like, pad your numbers hard.
Yeah, and confuse you when you're trying to weed things and you're like, how did this check out that many times?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a question for folks. I remember a while ago talking to, might have been actually you, Andrew, about the view items checkout history and the information on there not being very accurate. Is that still the case? Anybody know?
I mean, you've still got two spots in very close proximity to each other who are given two different versions of an item's checkout history. And I think that's probably what you and I may have talked about in the past. Because you get the one spot that gives the items.issues count that is just that like incrementing lifetime checkout count. And then you've got another screen that counts the checkouts for that item in the old issues table. And those numbers just don't tend to match. In most cases, like your items will have migrated in with a count of checkouts from your previous ILS. And so that'll be in the items.issues number. Whereas the old issues table is probably only ever checkouts that actually happened in Koha.
Okay, yeah, I was telling the staff here to use just the total checkouts and not go to that view item checkout history page, because one, it's really confusing, and two, it's like the numbers are dramatically different. So yeah, just wanted to make sure I was still on the right page. So.
I think you are, and I think that the larger number is the more accurate number over the entirety of time.
Yeah, I generally discourage people from looking at that page at all. It confuses them about transfers too, because it'll say like it's been in a different location, and they'll think, well, that's going on here. So yeah, we don't rely on that one. All right, what else do we want to talk about? Other issues, bugs, topics?
Well, I have another one that in the OPAC, it used to say like maybe I have on the results page, I have 2 items checked out with 1 on hold, that kind of thing. But now it basically, if that's the case, it'll just say no items available, and it doesn't give the same kind of detail that it used to. So you can't tell. Let me see if I can find. Maybe while I poke around, somebody else can talk about something else, and then I'll see if I can show you an example of what I'm talking about.
You know, actually just occurred to me, the news, is there a bug? I can't remember, but the claims returned little message that pops up when you check in a claims returned, and that message to resolve it pops up. You click on it and then you resolve the claims return, but that message box still remains. And I was wondering, does anybody know if there was a bug that was submitted for that, or is that something that people want? Because it just seems kind of, it should go away. That's basically what I'm saying. At least I think so. Yeah.
I was looking for bugs. I don't know. There's one about automating, but I don't think it's the same thing. We don't use claims return, so I can't comment on that.
Daniel, what version are you on?
We're on 2111.
Okay, so it's not fixed in that one. I think we're
was
behind. Yeah, we're behind everyone. So
It was added in this one, and that's why I was like, hey, go away. So I thought it was a cool feature, but then it just doesn't disappear. Yeah, 211105.
I mean,
Yeah, we're-
that sounds like a valid bug if you want to file it. Sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
oh no, I was gonna say we're still on 2105. So we're a little bit behind everyone.
We upgraded last night and I only had to fix. I only had to fix one broken jQuery, and then I went and hid Barbara's cool new feature that lets us batch delete holds because I didn't want my libraries to do that. And I had to hide the main contact information thing on the patron form because I already have a patron attribute for that. Oh, I had broken jQuery in the news too because I auto default that to the flip because that's generally what we use it for, and the home library, so that they're not putting things on other people's slips. But the news page had a bunch of like HTML changes. So if you have custom code on that, make sure and check in that. Oh, and the course reserves module has the ability to add things to course reserves by bib number now, which we don't need, and that just confuses people, so I have to hide that too. So that's been my upgrade experience, hiding all the cool new things that we got.
Yeah, I was happy I only had to fix one finance report with account line changes. Usually when that happens, it's like every report needs to be fixed. So it was just one, so pretty easy fix.
That's a good indicator of a good upgrade.
We had all sorts of stuff break, but
Oh no.
at least the spine label's fixed. We have like auto renewal notices that stopped going out. We have everybody has the ability to edit other people's items. And I'm not sure why other people aren't reporting that. I guess something about our setup is unique that has caused that. So I don't know. We have a few, we had a number of things.
Ours has always been wide open on editing items. That's been on my to-do list forever to write some jQuery for that, but it sounds like maybe you have that and it broke.
Yeah, we had that previously, and it was beneficial because people will like look at somebody else's call number and like get angry at it because they think it should be something else. And we don't actually want them to change it because the thing on the spine doesn't, have their ideal
You don't
ideal
need
for
to
what
find
that
that book anymore, as long
Yes.
as it looks right in the catalog.
So the other thing that happens is when that exists is if you just want to, you can't, because you can't edit anybody else's item, your items go at the top. And so it's like if we have some items that have or some bibs that have over 60 items. And so having that float to the top is super handy. So there's a few things, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly. We haven't got a lot of feedback as to why that was working and all of a sudden isn't. But I haven't seen a whole lot out there that's happening to other libraries. So some combination of our setup is, ran afoul of this update in a few areas that's different from others.
Well, I found I was going to try and find a live example of what I'm talking about, but I did have some stuff in my ticket. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
So the first two titles there are an old pre-2111 display. So it would show that there were no items available, but you knew that there were 4 items. So you can tell there are 4 items owned by the library, but they're all checked out. And this one, 2 checked out, 1 on hold. At the time I looked at these in 2111, they had similar checkouts and holds, but all it says is no items available. So I don't know how many items are owned by the library. There's just no items available. So I've got a ticket on it. When I looked at this, I'm like, it didn't used to be like that. And that's why I had to go back and find, this was from some other ticket a long time ago, I guess. And I was able to find, this is how it used to display. But now you just don't get any more information without having to actually go into the title.
seems like an XSLT thing.
Yeah,
Usually that's where
Lucas,
that's hiding.
Lucas is looking at it and I need to follow up on it.
Yeah, I'm looking at my OPAC. I don't see those either, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know how long it's been gone either. But mine, like I have one that's on hold for sure that just says no items available.
Barbara,
made a
have you looked at all at the system preference OPAC results max items? It's a system preference I've not ever looked at before. I was just looking to see if it was new or just something I have ignored. But it does have, it says, gives a number of show no more than blank unavailable individual items. Like, so maybe that's somehow getting enforced differently than it used to and showing unavailable items differently than it used to. I don't see any bugs about it though.
What was that system preference, Andrew?
The group of three here, I'll put them in the chat.
Okay, thanks. I was just gonna get them in the notes. Awesome, thank you. So we've got about 6 minutes left. What else do we want to talk about? Anything? System administration means everything Koha, I think. So nothing's off the table here. Seems like crickets. I think that's a good sign. That means we got everything out we needed to. So we will go ahead and call this a wrap and see you guys next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
And
good day.
if you haven't registered for KohaCon, remember to register.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.